Now let me answer a text from Mike first.
All right. Sorry, guys, I hit the wrong button. We are Before the Pitch, where we just bitch about the Mets and the Yankees because you can love New York baseball no matter what shade of blue you're wearing. I'm Billy.
I am Scott, and thank you guys very much for tuning into this episode. If you like what you are seeing right now, make sure you comment, subscribe, and keep going with our channel because we got some new changes coming around the new year that we are super excited for. If you want to get in contact with us or just talk about baseballs, we are always available on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, so let's see. What do we got going on? What do we got going on this week? Let's see. We talked about Gerrit Cole last week. We got his press conference coming up. We've got
Yeah, we got that conference coming up tomorrow, actually. It was supposed to be today. That's why we scheduled to do this for today, but then snow throws the whole thing off. And that's your welcome to the Northeast, Gary. I hope you like it.
Yeah, guys. No sunny California for us this week. We got snow, some rain, some sleet. We're the mailman, practically.
And let's just talk about really quick. Like the biggest talking point about this press conference so far is two things. One, how much is he gonna cut his hair? He knows he has to shave, right? Duh. Of course the guy knows he has to shave. And two, how many people are getting so angry over that picture of him not smiling, getting off the plane at 6 o'clock in the morning?
But then, like 30 seconds later, like there's a picture of him smiling, like talking to fans.
Yeah, it's like there's a video of him like signing autographs. Like, guys,
it's
come
like
on,
the dude. Come on, you've all been through the airport. No one's happy when they get off a plane.
Especially when it's at 6 in the morning and you're leaving freaking sunny SoCal, and now you're coming over here to a place that's expecting a snowstorm.
Yeah, like come on.
Think the guy's happy? No, he's tired.
Oh God, I love how much everyone reads into every little thing that athletes do. It's just like, do you ever think he was just really tired? Do you ever think he was a little exhausted from flying?
And here's the thing: his hair doesn't even need to be cut that much. The rule is the collar. His hair only needs to take like half an inch off from the bottom. That's really all he needs to do.
And honestly, he can just do whatever he wants that makes his hair fit his needs. You know, he could trim it up, leave the top long. He could leave a little length to it, but it just like trim it all up a little, shorten it. Like, we've seen it all with the Yankees and their hair. Like, it's gonna work.
Like, does that bother you at all? Like, if the Mets did that, how would you feel about that?
Honestly, I wouldn't care. I think the beard's a little like meh, whatever. Like I in a way, I kind of get the no long hair, but I don't kind of get the no beard. I get it if it's like they don't want like Justin Wilson beard. Or I'm sorry, Brian Wilson beard.
Yeah.
Or
Justin
Timber
Turner's the
beard.
one you're thinking of.
Or Justin. Yeah, there's too many Justins, too many Brians, too many Wilsons. But anyway, yeah. So like, or like a Kimbrel beard.
Yeah, that's gross. That's gross.
I get if that's not what they want. Like if they want it more of like what you have or what like I have on my face. Like granted, I need to shave as it is. But it's a little more like controlled.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I don't get. Like, why aren't they allowed to have like scruff? But you know what? I'm not a Yankee fan, so I'm not gonna really get into that too much. Like, I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. Like, but if that's what the Yankees want, that's what the Yankees want. Who am I to say no? They've won more than my team ever has.
Here's why I kind of like the rule, because we all know the reason why is because George wanted everyone to look professional. They wanted everyone to look corporate, was the word he used. Well, when you really think about it, like groups of people are separated and grouped accordingly through culture. Yeah. And this is a unique part of Yankee culture. The fact that we do this and no one else does is unique to us. And it's something that has been implemented for a very long time. Now, had Mr. Steinbrenner never have said that, then it doesn't become a part of Yankee culture, and then we don't care. But the fact is, he said, like, here's what he wants, and the Steinbrenner family still owns the Yankees. It is a unique, defining feature of us. And I think that's a good thing to have something that we're connecting with as unique to a team. I think it's important. That's why I hear people say, but no one else does it. Yeah, no one else does the Yankees. You know what I mean?
No, I completely get that. There's always... It's nice to have little quirks about your team that make yourselves you. Is there anything wrong with saying that the guys have to shave and have to cut their hair? No, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but you know what? There's also nothing wrong with saying, go ahead, like have a beard, have
Yeah,
long hair, like have fun with it, like whatever. You know what? Your team, your rules.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
like your league, your rules,
yeah.
as we've
And
said
it's
many
still
times on Twitter.
and it's still Mr. Steinbrenner's team. I don't care what anyone says because the Steinbrenner family still owns it. You can't say Mr. Steinbrenner's dead. We don't have to do this stuff. And then in the same sentence, turn around and say, Mr. Steinbrenner would be spending all this money, so why aren't we spending the money? You can't have it both ways. Pick one. Are we doing Stein? Is it Steinbrenner? Is it not Steinbrenner? It is still Steinbrenner. As long as someone with the last name Steinbrenner owns this team, I don't care how uninvolved he is. It's still the Steinbrenner's team. It's still Mr. Steinbrenner's team.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Brian Cashman is not going to change those rules.
No,
He's
no,
not. He's not
no.
because to him those rules are what won them those championships, what won them those um and I get it. It's not about the way your hair's cut, but like those things are what made the Yankees, and they're not going to change that.
Yeah, and it's important to like the whole idea is make sure you're taking the effort to make yourself look as best you can so that you can carry yourself that same way automatically. That's really what that's about. And that's why I
Absolutely.
like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um but getting back into more current news, uh he's got his press conference tomorrow. I don't think you're going to hear anything you haven't heard from every other superstar's press conference so far this offseason. He's happy to be here. He can't wait to win in New York. He's so thrilled to have the opportunity to win in New York. It wasn't all about the money, it was about where he wanted to be and where he sees his future as an athlete and a competitor. That's what you're going to hear tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not expecting to be. The, I'm gonna watch it if depending on what the snow's gonna like tomorrow will determine if I have work or not. If I don't have work, I'm gonna watch it. But otherwise, I'm not gonna be clamoring to turn on because he's not gonna tell us anything we don't already know. He's just gonna give us the scripted. Here's what you're gonna say, how you're gonna say it, and that's how it's gonna go. And we're gonna see that hideous Nike logo on a jersey, which I will be photoshopping out of whatever picture shows up online.
That's a lot of work for little return, if I do say so myself. Um, but yeah, no, we're actually going to see that logo on a jersey for real in a Yankee uniform. A little strange.
And all uniforms. I don't like it on any of them.
I don't like it on any of them. I think it looks. Here's the thing. I think it looks worse on jerseys that have like
The one side.
nothing underneath them
Yeah.
or something like super low. So like my
Hmm.
jersey has like a number on it down here. Like
Hmm.
if this didn't say New York and it just had like a logo here and the number down here, like I think that looks worse than it just being like blank.
Hmm.
Like I don't know what it is, but it just like something about it like twists my eye and like makes me cringe a little bit.
The red Cincinnati uniforms, so that they wear them this year, they say Reds, and it looks like it's a Spanish accent mark above the R. How they said we have to say like Reds now, the Cincinnati Reds.
That's actually pretty funny. I didn't think of it that way, but like it does look like an accent mark. Um, now that I'm picturing it in my head, like yes, it does. It looks like an accent mark. Everyone roll the R on your Reds. Um,
You have to now.
oh, that's absolutely amazing.
Uh, let's talk about a guy who no longer has to shave his beard. Della Betances.
Dylan Betances. Yeah, I don't think there's any way that he comes back to the Yankees at this point. I think he's kind of priced himself out of the Yankees. At not that high of a price point, but just not something that's worth the Yankees paying
Yep.
at this point, you know? I think a $10 million contract for a guy that's going to be like a middle reliever at best for you guys is just
Hmm.
a little high considering the bullpen you have.
To me,
Um,
it's $10 million for a guy who's one pitch away from not being seen again for a couple months. That's what I think the big question mark is. It's not his talent level. It's
yeah,
this dude is one pitch away from not seeing him again for a while. That's not worth it to me.
and I'm sitting here on the other end of the coin being like $10 million for a guy that's got that much talent. I'll take the chance with his injury because our bullpen was that bad last year. That I will
And
take a
here,
guy that's only here for half the season but performs at a high level versus not having that guy at all.
and that's the difference between us and you guys is we're Well, I do. I said a million times. I do not think the Mets are out of the bubble. Um, you need him more than we do.
Absolutely.
You need him more than we do.
I also think he ends up getting a bigger paycheck if he comes to the Mets and performs than if he went to the Yankees and performs.
Yeah.
Because if he comes to the Mets on a 1 year deal as like the setup guy or even potentially the closer versus a middle reliever for the Yankees, I think he earns himself a bigger payday. Well,
Yeah.
I think he definitely earns himself a bigger payday.
And there's almost more upward mobility in the sense for the Mets because, like, it's like you said, you have that closer position available. He
Yeah,
can
it
actually get
is
that. If you're
available.
Yankees, you're not the closer. Chapman's going to be your closer.
Chapman's closer, and if it's not Chapman, it's Britton. If it's not Britton, it's Avino. And if it's not
Yeah.
Avino, you could just keep going down the list. Like,
And the thing is, and someone brought this to my attention the other day. I didn't think about this when they're talking about the Yankees interested in Josh Hader, which at this point it's Schrodinger's cat. We haven't heard about it in a couple of days, which you could say no news is good news. You could also say, well, no news is bad news because that means that's happening. So that's a meaningless question to me. But we do know the Yankees were interested. Someone brought up a good point. Well, Chapman, I think, has what, 2 more years left, and Hader has like 4 years of control. So maybe it's possible that that's more of a long-term deal. That's more of a long-term plan thing than just right now. We keep thinking, oh yeah, do we need him right now? But like we do, we could use him right now to replace Betances. I hadn't thought about that until someone brought that up. It's like, no, that could be the closer who comes in after, and I think it'd be smart for the Yankees to do that. I don't know if it will or not.
and then again, the Mets are on the same end of that coin, being like their bullpen's a mess, or was a mess last year. I don't know if it's necessarily still going to be a mess this year. There's a lot of. I hate using this phrase, but I'm going to use it anyway. There's a lot of live arms in that bullpen for the Mets. You look at them on some nights and they're insanely talented, and then you look at them on other nights and it's like they're just throwing the ball down the middle of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you get the first half of that where they're lights out, well, all of a sudden they have a bullpen that rivals the upper tier bullpens in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get what they got last year again, well, you're in deep, deep shit.
Yeah.
And a guy like Hader can stabilize that because it pushes those question marks earlier in the game instead of late in the game. And it solves that problem for years to come of who's your closer.
Yeah, and I think both the Mets and the Yankees, I think the Yankees a little bit more than the Mets, but I think both of us, if we really want to, could offer a fair trade for Josh Hader. But the thing is, I do not think the Brewers want a fair trade. The Brewers want a bit of a lopsided trade for that because they're just coming off of the wild card. How much, and that's why I really didn't understand too much why they're talking about getting rid of him. I think that was more of just bait just to see. You might as well say it just to see who's going to offer what for you. But I can't really imagine them really wanting to move him. But I think both of us can put a fair deal together, but I don't think the Brewers want fair.
No, I think the Brewers are really looking for multiple pieces that they can kind of plug in like right away for Hader.
And I think the Yankees could do that. If they need a third baseman. So we can get them a third baseman who knows how to hit the freaking ball. And we know we can hit the ball and Andujar. And we can cover that position ourselves. We already have Urshela. We could already do that. You can give him Andujar and then have your choice of another guy. You could put they need a first baseman, Mike Ford. You could do that. Or you could do Florial if they think they want that other outfielder or something like that. I'm not too sure how well that one will go over because he's been stuck in single A for a while. I think you can have a conversation Garcia with Andujar. I think I think Cashman would kind of be okay with that, maybe, provided you signed one more pitcher. Like if they signed Ryu, I would say Garcia, you're getting out of here. We're getting Josh Hader with Andujar. Is that enough for the Brewers? I don't know. It would be. It's enough to be fair, I think. But is that enough for the Brewers to say, okay, we're winning enough right now that we can get ourselves to the ALDS instead of just the wild card?
Because the biggest knock on Andujar is you just don't know how he responded to that surgery.
You have no idea.
You're
right.
You just don't know.
You're right.
So I don't know what his value is on the market. Everyone keeps talking about him as if he is that player that we saw in 18. But you honestly don't know. And I don't know if the Brewers are in a situation where they can trade a proven top flight talent in Hader
Hmm.
for an unknown quantity. And I don't know if Garcia and Andujar, or even Garcia, Florial, and Andujar
Hmm.
is of equal value to a top reliever like Hader is.
Yeah.
Because
It fills in the gaps that they need, though. That fills in the gaps.
he's not just a good reliever. He's a top tier reliever in this
Hmm.
league.
Hmm.
Um, and I think you got to keep that in mind. Like, you're essentially trading for another Britain, another Chapman. Like, that's the type of quality of reliever you're trading for, and you got to ask yourself, would you be willing to accept Andujar, Florial, Garcia back in a trade for like a Britain or a Chapman? Because remember what you got last time you traded for Chapman or an Andrew Miller.
Now, remember,
Keep that in mind.
the Yankees are in a different slot than the Braves are right now. I mean, not the Braves, than the Brewers are.
Yes.
And here's the thing: here's why relief pitchers are so tricky. You could have the best closer in baseball, Edwin Diaz, go to your next team and then fall flat on his face.
Yes.
So you have to be careful about how much you really want to give up. Plus, you got to remember, how many innings is a reliever going to throw in a week? 4? On the Yankees, you're only going to throw like 4 because no Yankee at any point pitched like more than 2 days in a row out of the bullpen all year until the playoffs, which is part of the reason why the bullpen couldn't keep up with themselves because they weren't used to it. No reliever had pitched more than 2 days in a row. So you can imagine, what, 4 innings a week? So at what point is it worth? Is it not worth it? And the Brewers have to understand, if you really do want to move him, there's a limit to how much you're getting back on that for that reasons. As much of the value as he has, he doesn't hold the weight that an equally as good starter is going to hold. However, his advantage is he goes multiple innings, which is that we see you can't face one batter anymore. You have to do 3. That is a huge advantage towards him. Makes him way more valuable. That's why
Oh,
I don't think the Brewers really want to get rid of him. I think that's just bait. But I'd be
I
lying
think
if I
they
said I didn't want Yankees again.
threw. I think they floated the idea to see if any team would bite and throw like a mega package at them for him. And I don't think any team really bit that hard on it because teams don't want to give up what the Mets gave up for Diaz.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what? You could potentially package like top prospects and bring like less prospects and less value and bring back maybe like the Ryan Braun contract away
Hmm.
from the Brewers that frees up money for them.
Hmm.
Uh, but do you want to bring that contract back to your team? Um, that these are all questions that you have to answer if you're a team looking to trade for Hader, because you can lower the prospect value of it by increasing the monetary value that you have to take on, and vice versa.
Now, like I said before, I think the both of us can offer a fair trade. I think we both agreed that Mets can give a fair trade, but do you think the Mets can give them not the fair trade, but that deal that Brewers would be looking for that? Or do you think they'd be willing to give that to them,
I
the
think they.
Mets?
I mean, I obviously think the Mets have the pieces to pull the deal off. The question just comes down to how bare are you going to leave the farm system when it's done?
Yeah.
You know, are you gonna give up a Mauricio and a Gimenez and literally have no, or like a Mauricio, a Gimenez, or a Peterson, and literally have nobody in that top flight prospect level
Hmm.
anymore? To the point where if there's something you really need at the deadline, do you have the piece to pull it off? Like
Yeah.
that, and then that becomes the question.
Yeah.
Um, and I see it every year now because my team's in the National League East with the Braves and the Nationals. Every year they have a player come through their system and produce for them. To what level it varies each year. You know, some years you get a Juan Soto.
Hmm.
Other years you get a Ronald Acuna Jr. You know, other years you get an Andrelton Simmons or a Mike Soroka. Like, all of these types of players come through the systems, but you need that consistent flow of talent to the major leagues too.
Hmm.
And at what point do the Mets spend themselves out of having that flow to the major leagues? Because when you think about it, you had Pete and McNeil come up this past year, right?
That's what I was just gonna say. What's unique about the Mets is they just had a big influx.
They did just have in the last couple of years they've had a big influx of young talent from Conforto to Nimmo, um,
Alonso, McNeil.
Alonso, McNeil. Now I get it. Conforto goes back to 15. So does Syndergaard. Um, but these are all guys that have come up through the farm system. But then you look and you see, well, is there anybody else really coming? And if you trade those pieces away, well, now you got to look further down the list to see is anyone else coming. And I don't know if the Mets can afford to do that from that perspective, because I'm at the point where I see the Nationals spending money and still bringing talent to the major leagues, which is why they're okay with letting a Harper walk away
Hmm.
or letting a Rendon walk away. But they brought back Strasburg because that was a piece they felt like they couldn't replace.
Yep.
These are all things that matter, and I don't know if trading for Hader lessens that, but then I also look at the bullpen and go, we need a guy like Hader.
I would really appreciate the Mets to be like the Reds and pull a freaking trigger and say, listen, we're gonna freaking try to win. We're gonna try to win the baseball game. We're not gonna sit and play victim any longer because we know the Braves are being very active, the Reds are being active, and we just saw the Diamondbacks are now being active. Which, how much of an effect is this gonna have on the NL East really? Well, what do we do? What do we think about Mad going to Arizona just to begin with? What do you think?
Well,
Just in terms of Arizona for a sec.
I'm kind of disappointed he didn't go to the Dodgers just because I wanted that storyline.
Hmm.
I felt like that would have been fascinating to watch
Yeah.
all season long. So a little disappointed just because of that. But I do think this was a really good deal. I don't think it overloads them on the amount of money they have to pay him on any given year. I think 15 million of it is deferred after the contract ends. So the annual value of this contract isn't too bad, except for like 1 or 2 years where it's over $20 million. Every other year is like less than $20 million. So when you look at it from that perspective, the Diamondbacks did not handle this poorly, to where they have no ability or payroll flexibility because they spent $30 million a year on a player. So personally, I think this is a very smart move for the Diamondbacks. Do I think this swings the balance of power in the NL West? No. Because I don't really look at it as an improvement over Greinke, which they traded away last year. The only thing that would swing the balance of power, I think, is a strong step forward for a player like Robbie Ray, who I've talked about many times, because bringing in a player like Bumgarner can potentially help Ray.
So yeah, to me, I think Arizona is the most neutral place you could put the guy. I am not overwhelmed. I am not underwhelmed. I am just simply whelmed. If anything, I prefer it. Wanna know why? Arizona has some good-looking uniforms and hats. I actually have a Diamondbacks hat right over there, one of the ones from the first redesign in '07. And I am very excited to see what this dude looks like in a throwback day where they're wearing the purple. I am so excited to see what that happens. But like it's just like you said, you're almost disappointed it's not to another team. I think this is fine. I'm more relieved that it's not to a person that or that's not to a team that could pose a threat to me. At least I hope it's not going to pose a threat. But like I feel much more comfortable at this being almost like once again like it's neutral. Is that enough to compete with the Diamondbacks over the top? No. Is that something that may spark the Diamondbacks to say to step on the gas a little bit more? Maybe not to the level of Cincinnati, but maybe to me this is like the what's his name deal that the White Sox just threw out. Hey, we're going to get someone. We're going to put effort. We're going to bring you guys out to the ballpark. We're going to do something. Once again, it's not stepping on the gas as much as the Reds are, or to the level that I wish the Mets were doing. Um, Good steps forward for the for the Diamondbacks, but it's not a gigantic step forward. And you're right. I don't think this really does too much in terms of the West, unless, like I said, unless this sparks a whole new influx of stuff happening in Arizona, which it could, maybe.
I mean,
You don't know yet.
he could be just the right piece at the right time. He is that type of player that can really spark a team, I think he's got that passion and that like fight
And people
that
like
maybe
hitting
you
home runs
need.
in Arizona. People like hitting home runs in Arizona, and that's a dude who likes to swing the baseball bat.
He likes to hit home runs too.
He
Uh,
does.
but maybe he's just the right veteran that they needed in that clubhouse.
Sure.
Because it's not like the Diamondbacks were all that bad last year.
No, no. Once again, is a neutral middle of the road team, so that is a neutral middle of the road place for him to go,
It definitely
and
makes them
that's
better. Definitely makes them better, but I don't know
yeah,
how
yeah,
much better.
yeah. I agree. In no way do I feel the Dodgers are threatened. Can we talk about the Dodgers for a quick second?
Yeah, let's dive into the Dodgers.
Um, they have been the biggest eye roll so far because they didn't even offer Rendon anything. We didn't even talk about that last week. They didn't offer him nothing. They said, well, we figured he'd go there anyway. The joke I threw out was, well, his choices were Disney World or not Disney World. Or sorry, Disneyland. So obviously, I think we're all choosing Disneyland in that case. They didn't do nothing for him. They gave a what was described as a similar offer than the Yankees did for Cole, but supposedly the difference maker was two things. It was the ninth year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the Yankees being where he thinks supposedly where he thinks is his best chance to win a World Series. And I can't help but to think part of it is that middle finger to Houston. I can't help but to think that's part of it. Um,
Yeah, I definitely
but
think there was some bad blood there. But
what do you make? What do you make of the Dodgers right now? Yeah.
The Dodgers, I mean, they haven't really done anything to make themselves better,
No.
and they were a team that kind of fell really flat in the playoffs.
Hmm.
And honestly, this is something that I've kind of been accustomed to seeing with the Dodgers. Yes, okay, I get it. They went to back-to-back World Series. I get it.
That's yeah. That's not bad in any way. I wish I was at back-to-back World Series.
Same, but do you want to lose both times?
No, but I'd rather lose the World Series than not get to the World Series.
That's fair, but like they just seem to find a way every year to just fall flat.
Hmm.
There's some really talented people on that team. Really freaking talented players. But man, they just can't seem to get it right. And you don't bring in a Rendon and you don't bring in a Cole and you don't bring in Bumgarner and it looks like they're out on Ryu. At this point, what are you doing? You didn't bring in Zach Wheeler. You didn't bring in Didi Gregorius. Like at this point, like unless you're making a big trade, you didn't trade for Corey Kluber.
Hmm.
What are you doing? Like you need to do something because clearly the team you had last year wasn't enough.
No, and now that we're on the street, is they're going to try to trade for Mookie? But here's my question: are they really going to try to trade for Mookie, or is it just because they're the Dodgers, we're just going to throw their name in automatically for that? That's what I don't know.
Yeah, or what reporter or inside person from the Red Sox threw the Dodgers name out there to just be like, "Hey, the Dodgers are looking at Mookie so that, other teams that are kind of interested in Mookie jump in a little deeper."
And
It's
and
all
that
a
yeah,
game. Like that's the thing that everyone has to understand with these rumors. Like, and I'm just gonna do a quick callback before we move back to the Dodgers really quick. The Mets are seemingly out on Betances. We
mhm.
didn't mention that before. But you also got to take that with a grain of salt. Are they really out, or are they just negotiating, basically, and being like, all right, I'm pulling the deal? And then the agent has to step back up and be like, hey, are you actually interested, or what's going on, guys? Like, are you interested in him or not? And we're like, well, we were interested, but we spent some money while he wasn't signed, so like we only have this much left. All of this is negotiating, and all of these are tactics, and like there is a reason that these teams have PR departments, and there's reasons that these teams have they leak information. Like no information is leaked without a purpose.
No.
there's always a reason something gets leaked, which is why everything is this report, or so this person says, or apparently they're out, or so until it's like officially announced, these things don't really mean anything, and you have to take it all with a grain of salt, because there's always a power play behind why information is released.
Um, Here's why I refuse to believe the Mets are out on Betances. Because the other team involved is Philly. There's no way they're gonna sit down and let another
Another
freaking dude just waltz on over there with the guy who everyone thought should have been their manager. No way they're gonna let one more dude. You can't.
Yeah,
You
what are you
can't.
gonna do? Let Zach Wheeler walk over there? Let
Didi walk over
Didi
there.
walk over there? Let Girardi walk over there? Let
You let Harper walk
Betances
there last year,
walk
which
over
we
there?
thought
They've
Harper
already
would be
let
great
Harper
for the
walk
Mets.
there. They've let player after player walk to other teams in the NL East. Like, what are you gonna do? Let the one of the guys that can significantly improve the talent in your bullpen, the weak part of your team, go help somebody else's bullpen who is also a weak part of their team?
Mhm.
Because here's the thing, you can double down in how much it hurts the Phillies and how much it helps you by signing Betances, because
Mhm.
your bullpen gets better and you pull a piece away from them that could have helped their bullpen.
Mhm.
It's a game. Free agency is a game, and you have
Really
to play
is.
it smartly.
And
I'm
the
not
Dodgers are
saying,
running out of
and I'm not saying the Mets
the guys.
haven't played it smartly. I liked the Porcello signing. I liked the Waka signing, but it just comes a time where you watch pieces go to these other teams that weren't so much worse than you last year, and all of a sudden you've taken 2 steps back because they've taken 4 steps forward,
Mhm. Mhm.
not because you've actually gotten worse.
Really quick, let's shift back to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And this just popped in my head. What if they're looking to trade Seager at third base, and then you sign the other free agent who's left, Josh Donaldson? You're
But
not super high on Josh Donaldson.
but then where do you
Um,
play Justin Turner if you're the Dodgers?
Actually, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about him. You're right.
Because you can't play him at first because you've got Muncy at first.
Yeah. No,
Can't
Monty plays second.
Muncy plays second. You're right. Oh, wait, who's
Yeah.
first baseman?
I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. Dodgers have such a revolving door of freaking people.
Yeah, because last year, what, 2 years ago was Bellinger at first. Last year Bellinger was in the outfield, and then Muncy was at first. Now Muncy's
Mhm.
at second base. Like,
Yeah.
oh god, the Dodgers are a very confusing team sometimes.
Um, yeah, and I know you're not as high on Josh Donaldson as I am, so we won't really talk about that. I think if you're the Mets, you do Josh Donaldson just because he's already proved he can hit in the NL East, and I think for the Mets, Josh Donaldson is better than not Josh Donaldson. I know you seem to disagree, so we won't harp on it for too long. I know
I
you
just I
yeah,
his age really frightens me. If
yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
if I'm the Mets, um, his age frightens me, and I think we have a better in-house solution at third base than we do having Josh Donaldson.
That's fair.
Um,
That's fair.
I get it. He had a monster season last year with Atlanta, but the year before his season was awful.
Hmm.
Awful.
Yeah, you're
So,
right. You're right.
how much are you banking on the recent history versus the previous history?
You're right.
And I was a person who was in thought it was a smart signing for them to sign Donaldson last season, off season for the Braves. Not so much for the Mets, but for the Braves. Um, but that's also because I thought Rendon. Like,
Hmm.
I have loved that guy as a player for years.
Hmm.
And it's just heartbreaking to watch him go to another team. Though I'm very happy that it's the Angels and not back with the Nationals, because now I can actually kind of root for him. So
I root for the Angels. We talked about this before. I root for I like Otani. I really like
I
Otani.
really like Otani. I really like Rendon. Um, I just kind of like the Angels, and I
Hmm.
really hope they have a bit of a redemption year after all the stuff they went through last year.
Yeah, all the unfortunate stuff. I hope it's not redempting and redeeming enough to make a run for the World Series because I'm kind of a typical Yankee fan and oh my God, please win the flicking World Series already mode.
Well,
Um,
I'm a Mets fan who's been thinking that for a long time now.
hey, you made the World Series more recent than us.
That's true, but we didn't really come much closer to winning it.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Honestly, speaking of players who played in that World Series, I'm curious to see if a team picks up Matt Harvey. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm
You
curious.
never know. Someone could sign him to a minor league contract just to draw the attendance.
Yeah. Honestly, if I'm Matt Harvey at this point, I try and convert myself into a reliever and break back into the major leagues because you're going to make more money as a mediocre reliever than you will as a terrible starting pitcher.
Yeah, you're right. There's actually one who's a terrible starting pitcher who's been using opioids, as we found out.
Yeah,
Angels.
that was an interesting turn of events.
And that's a they have the new drug policy coming out where marijuana is legal in baseball now, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Apparently they're not going to be testing for it, which frees up players to actually use it. I guess.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
also one
no
guy that
judgment zone. So
no, not at all. I mean,
yeah.
hell, it's on the ballot come November in my state, so
No, is it really? No.
yeah, it's on the public ballot to be voted on in November.
Connecticut would never. I doubt Connecticut's gonna. Is it legal? I don't even freaking know.
I don't believe it is.
I don't think it.
I
No,
think
'cause
it's
Massachusetts.
decriminalized, but I don't think it's legal. I think it's just decriminalized.
Knowing how Connecticut functions, they will not make it legal just for the sole reason that they are going to want the freaking money from finding people from using it, because that's just how Connecticut works.
Except for the fact that you can make more money by taxing it.
But that's too logical. You don't understand how Connecticut works, Billy. You don't.
I'm very well aware of how
Here's
Connecticut works.
here's how it works. Here's how it works here. It's the right decision and the wrong decision. You go with that one.
Anyway, let's get back to baseball really quick. Um, just one guy that I'm very curious to see where he goes is Aaron Sanchez.
Okay.
He was part of that combined no hitter by the Nationals, the Astros this past year.
He also has an elbow thing, which is the reason why they didn't want him to come back, and that's why they're not making that push for that.
True, but at 27 years old, man, like at 27 years old with the talent and the arm that guy has, like
Mhm.
I would be tempted to just be like, "Hey, we're going to use you out of the bullpen, like come pitch for us." I am very strongly on board the if there are no good relief pitchers left or none that you can afford, jump on the starter bandwagon and be like, we want you to be a relief pitcher on our team.
Mhm.
Because I know starters have pride and whatnot, but I really think that having a more talented pitcher who has never been a reliever before is better than having a borderline major league pitcher in your bullpen.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
would, ra- I
I
would
think it's fair
rather, I would
for the
rather,
mental game more than anything. For the
I would,
mental game.
well, for the mental game and also just for the pure talent level of that pitcher.
Hmm.
I think these guys are so talented that they will be able to adapt to that role
Hmm.
given the right amount of time. And some guys will adapt faster than others. Some guys may never adapt.
And some guys might even make that transition with pride, like we saw CC do, like going to the playoffs. He took that with pride, say, no, this is my role. I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. But he's a different spot than Sanchez. He's kind of like the tail end of his career, kind of trying to keep himself contributing in any way possible. But you never know who might say, you know what, I'm proud of myself for having done a good job in my career, that someone is trusting me with this responsibility so they could take it seriously. You never know with people. You
You
never
never
know.
know. And I'm not saying that Sanchez would accept that, but that would be a guy that would be very interested in bringing on because you increase your flexibility. You know how we've been talking about versatility,
Hmm.
versatility? Well, that goes for pitchers too,
Hmm.
especially with this new three batter rule. What better than to bring in more guys who have a careers out of getting, you know, facing 20 batters.
Hmm.
You know, it's they have that repertoire that they know how to get guys out in a row. They know
Yeah, and
how, and
yeah.
that's not something that a lot of relief pitchers who are considered specialists have experience doing. So why am I going to sign that guy when I can sign a starting pitcher who might not get as much money, maybe pay him a little bit more, but say, hey, you're going to be a reliever now.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I while I brought that up earlier, I completely forgot about that right now. Yeah, you're gonna want a dude who can knock down a few guys in a row. So maybe are we gonna start seeing that trend
Yeah,
of those transitionings happening?
are you
That'd be
going
a
to have
curious thing to look out for.
are you going to have more starters converting to relievers because you know they can throw like 2 innings?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. We should look out for.
I think it certainly is. I also think bringing in a guy like that opens the Mets up to the possibility of having like an opener role as our fifth starter
Hmm.
instead of
Hmm.
like a true like anointed fifth starter.
I hate
Because
calling it an opener. You're the starting pitcher. You're just not going for very long. You're still the fucking starter. It drives me nuts. I hate calling it an opener.
well, yeah, but
You're the starter.
what do you call him? A short starter?
No, the starter who just happened to go. That's just our plan for our starter.
But
He's our starter, and our plan is for our starter to go two
but
innings.
you also see what I'm saying, where it's like
Yeah, but it's
how do
like he's a
you
starter. Go 2 innings.
because when I say starting pitcher, I think of a guy that's going at minimum 5 to 6 innings.
Yeah, but like now our starting pitchers sometimes our plan is for the starter to go two. Like you can't if you're don't call the second guy the starter. If the dude starts the game, he's a starter. I
I mean,
hate this term.
I get what you're saying, but I also get the other side of it where it's like you're not like the difference between like Rick Porcello and you know um Chad Green. Rick Porcello is a starting pitcher.
Ah,
Chad Green's an opener.
Chad Green is a starting pitcher for 2 innings. I know you. I know what you
Because
mean. I think
it's like otherwise you're sitting here and you're adding extra words to your sentence for no
yeah. That's
reason.
it. That's what it's all about. It's just to avoid saying the extra syllables.
Well, yeah, because
That's really what it's
nobody
about.
wants to sit here and be like, Chad Green's a starting pitcher who only pitches 2 innings. It's like no, Chad Green's an opener.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he's a reliever who opens once in a while.
but you know what I'm getting at. And frankly, I would much rather say opener than starting pitcher who only pitches 2 innings.
You know, just to drive you nuts, I think that's the only term I'm going to use from now on. A starting pitcher only pitches 2 innings.
I swear to God, I will mute you. I swear to God, I will mute you. I have that power, and I will abuse the shit out of it.
Freaking love this.
I will abuse the shit out of my ability to mute you. This will become a silent show.
Oh man, no one's listening anyway. People who actually are listening, name that movie that comes from. It's a baseball movie. We got anything else?
No, I think that pretty much wraps it. There's not much going on this week. And honestly, I don't think there's going to be much going on until after the new year. This is kind of like that dead zone in the off season that we have
But
to
don't worry,
endure
we're
every
still going
year.
to be here to keep you entertained.
We'll do our best. I don't know if it'll be entertaining.
We'll do our bestest as long as Billy doesn't mute me.
Well, I'm the entertaining one here, I think.
he mutes me and I'll put on a puppet show with like my socks just sitting up here like this.
Somehow I think that'll be more entertaining than free agency over the next like 3 weeks.
It'll be like Potter Puppet Pals.
The thing that I am the one thing that I have to mention before we sign off here is I'm very surprised that there hasn't been as much trade talks as there were last year at this time.
Okay.
There was the Kluber deal, and beyond that, there hasn't been many trades.
All I can think of is, but free agents went quick.
Free agents went quick, but there's
And
been
that's
no
probably
trades.
part of it. Everyone's attention probably went to get free agents out of the way quickly.
Well, I
It's
guess
probably the transition of it, yeah.
I mean, I guess if I'm a GM, I'm sitting here being like, well, if I can fix my problems through free agency first, I can use the limited capital I have, or the plethora of it
Hmm.
to strategically strike on the trade market instead of trying to fix all my problems and then fill in the holes with what's left in free agency.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Well, and we're not gonna know.
Yeah, we're not gonna know until
I
January
mute.
at the earliest.
Yeah, I muted myself by unplugging the thing.
Well,
Yeah, we I say we're not gonna know until the offseason starts to wrap up. We can see that trend and see what's going to happen with it.
yep.
Because money is an easy fix. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple bucks.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of do you want to spend it or not.
and for most of the owners, a couple bucks is really not an issue.
It's really not. For most of them, it's just a matter of
How much they want to spend.
yeah, yeah.
All right, with that, I think that wraps tonight's episode. We'll be back probably around the same time next week. We might do a couple shorter videos in between. We've got a few new series videos that we're talking about, spitballing that we're going to premiere probably right around the new year when we really start to go heavy into everything. But
Hmm.
for now, we're going to continue our weekly recaps and analysis of all the news and all the trade talks and free agency and rule changes and how much everyone hates Rob Manfred at the moment. That's all going to
That's gonna
be.
be a video on its own.
It's a video on its own. But we will keep it rolling here at Before the Pitch as much as possible. You got anything else to say, Scotty?
Adios. We're out of here.
All
Merry
right.
Christmas, everybody. If you have not do not see another video before then.
Yeah, you should, but if you don't, have a Merry Christmas. Catch us on Twitter, Instagram, all of the above. Please subscribe somewhere down on the bottom if you haven't already. We really love the support of anyone that's listening at the moment. So we've been Before the Pitch because we'll talk New York baseball because you sure as hell know ESPN will not.
Adios, amigos.